So, welcome students. We have discussed about the basics of the animal cell culture, and now today we take up with the applications of the in vitro testing for development of drugs. Now, as you know, that there are various medical problems for which you need to find new drugs on a day for better treatment options. Now, yeah, if you take the number of compounds that are synthesized in various laboratories in research labs, then there is enormous number of compounds and all of them do not qualify for use as a proper medical aid during treatment of any disease. So why don't they qualify for use in medical practices? Maybe some of their structures are not there, specific reactivities are not there, or they are generating some kind of immune responses, or maybe they are producing some ill side effects. So those drugs cannot be used, or the medicines cannot be used for the medical application. Now, how will you find whether this drug or the compound that has been given can be used as a medical drug or not? For that purpose, you need to test it or verify it whether it is good for application purpose or not. Now, earlier practices were that you tried to give the drug to the patient and find out the results whether the drug was effective or not in controlling the disease condition. So that is something that is not very good practice, or just a trial and error method. So people started with the application of the use of the animals for testing these particular drugs. So the drugs were the animals were induced with the disease, or those disease were created in the animals, and then the drugs were given to these animals to check whether the drug was acting effective or not. So that rose gave rise to the ethical issues, because sometimes the drugs were effective, sometimes the drug created so many toxic effects that ultimately the animal was killed. So that gave rise to the ethical issues, ki whether these animals can be used for testing purposes or not, whether the testing can be done in human candidates or not. Uh, how can you take it into the clinical practice bef- uh, before testing it for its efficacy or any kind of ill effects? So those ethical issues, those considerations, then the additional input of the cost, and the input of the labor, the input of maintenance for these animals in the lab conditions, simulations, and creating those environmental conditions for the proper growth of the animals, and all that things created were very cost intensive. The possibility of using them with increasing number of candidate drugs, the possibility of using these animal testings was becoming very dim. So the output was the outcome was the use of animal cell cultures for in vitro testing of the drugs. So that we are going to understand today how this development occurred. Now, first, what are the advantages? Now, as I have already told you, there were ethical issues. So, the cell culture had definitely some advantages over those issues, the social and economical issues. So, they have been preferred models or methods for which you can utilize for drug testing and development. Now, most commonly now, recombinant cell lines, primary cells, or the animal can be used for the development and testing of the drug. So now here you can see the animal models, but we are not concerned with the animal models. We are trying to incorporate more of the culture techniques so that the testing can be effective and no ethical or economical issues are taken up with. So the recombinant cell lines, the cell lines that have been especially designed so that they can respond to a particular type group of drug types, they can be used, or the primary cells can be used. Then the preference was given for stem cells. Now, why the stem cells have been preferred? Because they are capable of unlimited self renewal and they can generate physiological relevance cells through controlled differentiation. So, if you want a particular type of cell, that is, if you want a drug that you want to study is effective on liver cells or not, so you need to have a group or cluster of liver cells. So if you have the stem cells, you can design them so that they will all generate the liver cells only. They will differentiate as liver cells. So they have unlimited renewal possibilities and they can be controlled to which kind of differentiated cell they will form. So these two properties made these stem cells as an attractive alternative to currently used recombinant cell lines or the primary cells. But there is a difficulty when you are using these stem cells. Their use can be limited because they are difficult to be directed for a particular differentiation strategy. You want to differentiate the stem cell into, as the earlier example, as in a liver cell, but that induction into differentiation for a liver cell may be a difficult attempt. And another thing is the cost of maintaining such differentiated cells would also increase. The maintenance cost will be increased. So there are these two limitations that will limit the use of the stem cells for any drug testing. But still, most of the drugs that were earlier used, uh, or they were found suitable, were selected on the basis of animal screening. So I told you the drugs, the animals were induced with the disease and then they were given the drug whether it is effective or not. So the animals were used for the screening of the drugs. Or but now this system, because of ethical and economical issues, now this is mostly done in the cell culture system. Now this cell culture system gives you the ability to find out whether the drug uptake is happening or not, or it is being effluxed out, or there some kind of interaction with other biomolecules or other drugs in the physiological aspects is occurring. What is the where the drug will be acting, what is the target of the drug, or how it will be metabolized within the cellular system. Now, what are the assay methods for drug screening? Now, you have whether you have the animal models or the cell culture models, there need to be some methods where you can utilize to screen out the drugs. Now, where we are particularly concerned with the cell culture techniques, and so we talk about the assay methods that we can use with the cell culture. Now, most prominently the drugs in recent time have been detected for anti-cancer treatment. So mostly these screening were being done on murine cells. Example, your sarcoma cells were generated from primary tumors, and for screening the potential drugs, growth inhibition assays were used. Growth inhibition means you are trying to develop an anti-cancer drug, and these anti-cancer drugs should inhibit the growth of the sarcoma cells. दोपहर में 1 बजे screening of potential drugs. So here the growth will be inhibited. Now, the cells are cultured for up to 2 to 5 times of the doubling times in the presence of the drugs. That is, the treatment of the drug is given to these cells, and then the number of the living cells is counted using a hemocytometer or an electronic cell counter. So now, if the drug is effective, then the number of the cell population will be reduced. The number of cells will, the growth of the populations will be inhibited. That is why they are known as growth inhibition assays. Later, the development of various metabolic dyes, they facilitated easier and reliable assays. So one of them is the trypan blue exclusion dye exclusion assays. So that is, the live cells will take, or the dead cells will take the dye, and then you can identify on the basis of that uptake of the dye whether the cell is living or dead. Now, this has also improved with the use of the multi-well plates. So you have number of plates, and you can test several of the candidate drugs within a single plate, and then you can read out the readings on a digital display instrument. Another example of these inhibitory assays is your mitochondrial reduction of the methylthiazole diethional tetrazolium, that is MTT. It has been successfully used for long time as reliable method. Now, when the cells are inhibited by a particular drug, then the mitochondrial responses are changed. So those mitochondrial responses, they also affect the structure of this particular dye, and then this dye will precipitate out. And when you dissolve this precipitate with some kind of solvent and read the absorbance, then you can find out with the intensity of the readout how much cells are in the living condition or how much cells have been inhibited. Another metabolic dye is your alarmer blue, that also detects the cell growth. Now, in these methods, the cells are cultured in multi-well plates in the presence of drugs to be tested, and in the last day of the treatment period, the dye is added. Now, changes in the dye color due to metabolism or reduction are measured by plate readers as absorbance or fluorescence, which is directly proportional to the cell number. Now, to develop a novel drug, reliable data of potential toxic effects on human is required. Now, you are trying to develop this drug for human consumption. So, these potential drugs should not be toxic in the human subjects. So before you give it to the human beings directly, you try to screen out the potential drugs in the cell cultures, and then you take it to the animal screening. So earlier it was, the strategy was from animal screening to human testing. Now the strategy is from cell culture to animal screening and then to the human testing. Okay, so that reduces the uh, possibility of killing less, reduces the possibility of killing the more and more animals just for laboratory purposes or experimental purposes. So now this assays were mostly done in mouse or the rat models. Now, if in animal screening, most prominent animals are your mouse or the rat models, and these provide the information about the drug. But still, you cannot correlate these models with the human subjects. So that information is still insufficient, and many drugs that have gone through this animal screening and have been okayed and given a green signal to be tested in the human subjects, they show disappointing abnormal results or abnormal toxicity in the clinical trials. So this suggests that in vitro cultured animal derived cells or in vivo animal models, they cannot mirror the conditions in the human subjects. So you need to now develop some kind of cells that are more close to the human subjects. And that gave rise to the development of stem cell culture models that display promising results in these problems. So, the examples of these stem cell culture models are your human embryonic stem cells, or the induced pluripotent stem cells, or the hematopoietic pluripotent stem cells that can be easily used for development of drugs. Now the stem cells, as I've already highlighted how the stem cells are helpful, because they are having two dominant properties, that is they have self renewal property, and they can differentiate to any kind of mature somatic cells in vitro and in vivo. So they give the opportunity for testing the drug in a more efficient manner. So now here the embryonic stem cells or the induced pluripotent stem cells, they are the most potent stem cells, as they can be tested for different kinds of drugs. Now if you want to test any drug that is being used for the blood system, then the hematopoietic stem cells can be utilized. These stem cells now help in the discovery of the target identification, or the target validation, or the specificity studies, or the toxicological studies. That is target identification. You have various candidate drugs. Now where which organs or which will be the target of these drugs, that the identification needs to be done. Only then the drug can be administered for a particular disease condition. So these stem cells help you to identify the target. Now if we talk it in terms of the molecular terms, then within the cell system, where this drug is going to hit, which biomolecule or which signaling pathway or which signaling molecule is going to be hit by that particular drug, that can also be identified with the help of the stem cells. Then target validation, that whether the drug is specific for that particular target, or it is also affecting any other organs also, that can be also known. So the target can be validated. Then the specificity studies, that is the drug is specific for that particular disease, for that particular target, for that particular biomolecule, that can also be understood. Then toxicology studies, whether the drug that you are in giving will create any ill side effects or any kind of toxic components within the body when metabolized in the body system. So those toxicological studies can also be done with the help of stem cells. Now, this also helps in the possible tracking of the gene expression profile in each stage of the disease with the progression, and which is specifically useful in the target identification. So that is what I was telling you, that is specific target, which will be the target, which molecule will be hit by this particular drug with each stage of the disease. So each and every step can be monitored, each and every step can be understood where this drug will be hitting. So now the system is also useful for studying the underlying mechanisms using genetic modifications such as overexpression of the target gene or the selective depletion. So you can definitely create ample quantities of target of the target gene, so that the efficacy of the drug can be ascertained. Now, the screening for most suitable cell culture systems utilize the recombinant cell lines for the screening of the drugs. Now, why are they preferred? Because they are easy to maintain, they are widely available, and they are reproducible. But the problem is that they poorly correlate with the physiological relevance, and thus they display poor correlation with the disease. So the primary cells are now utilized, they provide higher physiological relevance. The other factors that that we are investigating for that particular drug. So these can be utilized. Then stem cells are now being replaced for, in some extent, the recombinant cells and the primary cells are being now replaced by the stem cells, because the stem cells can be propagated for prolonged period of time, and they can also be cryopreserved. Then stem cells can differentiate to physiologically relevant cell types, replacing the need of the primary cells. That is, I have told you, they can differentiate into a specific kind of cell that you are trying to use for your assay applications. Moreover, they offer the generation of disease-specific somatic cells. Thus, they allow the in vitro modeling for specific diseases. For those reasons, the stem cell systems are becoming a powerful tool for high throughput screening. Now, this helps this is a simple example that out of 2.4 million compounds, one potential drug has been identified against the two amino 3 5 methyl 3 oxo 1 2 oxazole 4-ill propionic acid receptors. So this is also a continuation of the cell modeling for a specific disease, for testing a specific kind of drug. So this gives you the lineage specific differentiation of the stem cells, and it gives the possibility for generation of disease specific somatic cells or particular disease model in vivo. Now these features can be used for to study how does a drug behave, or to screen out a disease specific drug. So if we are trying to suppose test any anti-cancerous compound, then we can create we can definitely take tumorous cell lines, but we can also induce normal cells with uh, for mutations leading to cancerous development. So the cells can be mutated with the mutagens to create the cancerous properties in them, and then the drug will be given to these newly induced cells. So now this will tell you the whether the drug, how the drug will behave in this system. And if you then put an anti-cancerous compound in these disease induced cells, then also the specific drugs can be screened out whether they are effective for the treatment of that particular disease or not. That is by your in growth inhibitory assays. Now the induced pluripotent stem cells from patients can be widely used for disease modeling, as these cells can be differentiated to specific lineages, generating disease and patient specific somatic cells. Now, the induced pluripotent stem cells from patients with various diseases like cardiac arrhythmias, Huntington's, or amyotrophic lateral sclerosis, or spinal muscular atrophy, juvenile diabetes, or other severe combined immunodeficiency syndromes, they can be utilized to generate the specific disease model for testing the drugs that would be effective in these particular disease conditions. So now Despite the use of the conventional drug discovery systems, now stem cells can also be used in the characterization of regenerative drugs. So that is an example where altrimbopag and erythropoietin have been developed with the help of these conventional drug discovery systems, that is through the traditional screening method. Now, the traditional screening method depends upon the knowledge of the target receptors or the cytokines for the generation of a particular tissue. So, in this case, altrombopag, the that is the antagonist of the thrombopoietin receptor TPO. It was discovered using a recombinant cell line that expressed the TPO receptor. So these kinds of cells or lineages can be created, and the drug candidate drugs can be tested in these lineage systems. But still, we cannot have too many information from these systems, because the tissue generation is a difficulty. How will you regulate the tissue generation? And the information about those regulatory efforts is also very limited. So we can use these stem cells as an alternative. So traditional in contrast to traditional methods, we can use these stem cells. Now, most of the adult tissues can that contain the stem cells can be used for screening of the regenerative medicines. So, these such a approach, as example of this, is using mesenchymal stem cells to screen around thousands of molecules for promoting osteogenic differentiation identified by one lead molecule. Now, use of the stem cells in toxicological studies. Now, currently, the hepatocytes or the cardiomyocytes or animal models or the transformed cell lines are used for the toxicity studies before going in for the clinical trials. Now, beyond even after this extensive testing, so you have so many checks before the drug goes into the clinical trials. Still, 30% of the drugs fail in the early stage of the clinical trials because of their toxicity issues, because they are generating some kind of ill side effects. So uh, you can now utilize these stem cells also for these particular studies. The example was given, one of the studies was led by Ferdinand Moldenhauer in 1997, where he utilized an in vitro stem cell culture model to assess the embryo toxicity. So it is so-called embryonic stem cell test. What they took is they took the advantage of the potential of mouse embryonic stem cells to differentiate in culture into variety of cell types. So that we have been discussing so on for so many slide previous slides also, that these stem cells have the capability to differentiate into different kinds of cells. So so Moldenhauer also utilized this particular opportunity, and he cultured the mouse embryonic stem cells. Now they studied the test or the experiments that they did. They were based on the assessment of three toxicological endpoints. That is the outcome of these studies. The end results that would be interpreted were in the form of morphological analysis of the beating cardiomyocytes in differentiating mouse embryonic stem cells, or the simple mouse embryonic stem cells, or in the differentiated 3T3 fibroblast cells after the 10 days of chemical exposure. So they took three kinds of cell cultures, that is the mouse differentiating mouse embryonic stem cells, simple mouse embryonic stem cells, and the differentiated 3T3 fibroblast cells. Later, a group led by Horst Spillman also showed the use of mouse embryonic cells